Welcome back to another video. In this one, we're gonna be hopping on the ice with Brad Hawthorne, and he's gonna share a bunch of tips that'll help you catch more crappies with tungsten jigs. So buckle up, we're gonna jump right in. Brad's got some great tips for you in this one.
Yeah, this is definitely a bigger crappie. Me and Nick popped out here and popped a couple holes, flicked on live, and we got this school of crappie that's just kind of milling around in like a 50-foot area here. And basically, you know, you get into midwinter, and tungsten kind of rules, man, definitely a better one. Tungsten kind of rules the roost as far as like jigs go. There we go. Look at that. That's a nice crappie right there. And tungsten kind of rules the roost, as you can see. Like that's a pre-rig mayfly tungsten right there. And look at that, nice fish. Way to start the video out. Pre-rig tungsten is a cool thing to use because they're already set up. You don't got to meddle with plastics. It's like boom, there they go, tie them on, and they start fishing right away. That's the cool part about pre-rig. Now, as far as tungsten goes, what we're seeing with these fish, we don't want to be using really light stuff. We want to be using really, really heavy stuff from 40 feet of water, where we want the lures to get down there, and we want them to get down there fast and deliver that meat, whether we use wax worms, pre-rig, whatever we're doing. That's why tungsten is so important. It's kind of replaced a lot of the lead jigs in my box, just because it gets through the slush in the hole better. It's denser, it shows up better on my electronics. It gets to the fish faster. And today, if you're not drilling a hole and getting your lure down there quick, the fish are scooting away. Like that's just the fact of it. When you get into late season, mid-season like this, fish are spookier. So you got to be on your toes. Drill a hole, get down there quick, extract the fish, and by the time that's over, like this school here is already moved. So there's a key point in tungsten is it does everything faster and it shows up better on your return. So that's why you've seen this massive move to tungsten over the last few years.
Next up, Brad is going to talk about why tungsten is so important for chasing crappies in the environment that we live in today.
When I talk drop speed right here, I'm just going to drop this lure down here. It's like 35 feet deep right here. And when I talk drop speed, you really want that jig to really honk all the way down there, because especially with crappies, you know, bluegills can do it too, but crappies are notorious for coming through an area and then moving, and you really got to hunt them down, especially late in the season. So it's really key to have you get your lure down there as fast as humanly possible, and that's where tungsten kind of comes into play. Now, what Northland has done with their tungsten is they kind of changed the game last year, where they were like, hey, we don't want to have the same boring tungsten that everyone else has. If you look at, oh, come on up. If you look at their tungsten shapes, they have great head designs on them. They're not just kind of the run-of-the-mill tungsten jig that you see everywhere else. They have nice bug eyes on them. Ooh, that got whacked. They got nice bug eyes on them. They got little mouths. They're just really, there's a lot of detail in the jig head itself. So take a look at that. You know, you want, if you're buying tungsten, you want those shapes, you want those characteristics in the jig. You just don't want a painted regular tungsten jig like everyone else has. So take a look at the tungsten heads on them. They're really unique, they're really cool, and they ultimately, by adding that detail, it's giving the fish more realistic presentation so you catch more fish.
Next up, Brad is going to show you specifically his favorite crappie bait that he always has tied on and ready to go when he's chasing crappies through the ice.
My go-to crappie presentation is, well, I want to show it to you. It's got the Northland bloodworm on it. It's the mud bug in tungsten, and it's been my go-to for a few years now. Because it just catches fish. It catches nice big crappie like this, and catches nice big crappie, and it's a durable lure. It's got good paint on it. It's, you know, a good lure for plastics. So that's kind of my go-to right there. And the head detail on there, the mouth, the buggy eyes, like it's got everything you look for in a jig. Plus, you know, you can see here I got some meat on there. It's just a great jig for starting out. You know, that's why I have one tied on all the time, because the colors are awesome. It's a durable jig. It's got a sticky, sharp hook on it. And as you see, it just downright catches fish.
Now, changing gears a little bit, Brad is going to discuss specifically why basins are such an interesting area to target fish, and not only crappies, but a number of different species.
So a lot of people think, you know, they overlook the basins this time of year and they just think it's a thing for crappie, and that's not the case. I mean, you can come out to any lake that has a decent size, you know, decent population of panfish, bluegill and crappie. A lot of the times you're going to find those bluegill mixed in with the crappie out deep in the basin. And the reason for that is simple. The bluegill are out there for the same reason the crappies are out there. Even though they're different species of fish, they sometimes cohabitate together when they're hunting for food. So, you know, they're down there, and the basin means bugs, period. Like, they're out here eating bugs, and a lot of times that's, you know, your larvas, your bloodworms, your things like that the fish are really chowing on. So you'll see, like, sometimes if they're suspended, they're out there because the food is suspended, and that's why the fish are suspending. And when you see them closer to the bottom, that usually means you're on some type of bloodworm bite or some type of invertebrate that's, you know, living in the mud. And that's kind of what we're seeing today, is the fish will come up, but they're definitely keying in on the bottom. They're never more than 3 or 4 feet above the bottom. So it's kind of neat to watch and get dialed in on your panfish. Just because, you know, your fish are suspended or they're close to the bottom, if you can always find, you know, see if you can find out what they're eating, and take those times where you find fish and ask yourself, why are they here? You know, why are the fish 5 feet off the bottom? Why are the fish 10 feet off the bottom? And start figuring that stuff out, and that'll make you a tremendous panfish angler, especially when you start learning, like in the fall time when turnover happens, and you go, okay, well, why are these fish here? Well, it's because those fish were there because they couldn't access that water a week and a half before that. So they got all this food available, so the fish run down there and do it. Same thing with this right here. Late in the winter, the bugs start popping out of the mud, and the fish really start keying in on them. And, you know, figuring those types of bites out and knowing that type of stuff on different bodies of water will ultimately catch you more fish. And that's what everyone tries to do, is catch more fish. You know, you're gonna pick off, when you're moving around, you're gonna pick off the most aggressive fish. And sometimes with this method, like me and Nick are doing, sometimes you're leaving a school of fish to go find another school of fish because there was only 2 or 3 active fish in that school, you know, and you don't want to sit and grind your teeth on fish that just simply aren't biting. You know, give them 5-10 minutes. If they don't turn on, pick up, drill another hole, find another school, and see if you can't pick up some more active fish.
On this day, me and Brad were jumping around, we were hole hopping. Specifically, we were looking for the fish that were the most willing to bite, the most active, and that's a really good strategy. But it's also common that some folks are not able to be as mobile, and maybe they've got, you know, a wheelhouse or something that they can't move around very good. So if you're one of those people, Brad's got a few more tips for you right now.
So if you're gonna, you know, come out to your crappie hole and thump your Yeti down on it and just plan on like camping with the kids and not being too mobile, one thing to remember is crappie's eyesight is very, very good. Very, very good. That's what makes them difficult to catch sometimes, is their senses. They have some of the best senses out of any fish, and they can be spooky, and they can be moody, and they can be picky. So if you're going to plop the wheelhouse down and choose that method, you want to make sure, like, if it's a clear body of water, you want to make sure that you don't have light shining directly down the hole, because that can spook fish away. I've seen it a lot of times where guys have all their lights on in their house, and the fish are literally, they push the fish 10 to 20 feet off to the sides of their houses, and they just don't catch any fish. So keep the light down, keep the noise down, and also, like, try to just, like, be as normal and natural as possible with your presentations, because you don't have the luxury of moving around and finding fish. You're literally staying there and camping. So I always try to have like a set line down with a plain minnow, or even plain hook with a lot of larvae on it, to get those neutral fish.
All right, let's wrap up this video with one last fish catch, one last crappie from Brad.
Rockets, the little rockets came rocketing up. I just love that when you're crappie fishing, and then they just go right on your screen and come up and smack it. That's one of the best rewards. This wasn't as big. One of the best rewards crappie fishing is having them shoot straight up and come and pop that lure. Oh man. And I wasn't sure we were gonna get anything with the wind today and the weather. Like, one thing this winter has done is, like, really, as a guide working on the ice every day, it's like this winter was probably one of the roughest winters I've seen as far as weather. It seemed like every 3 to 5 days it blew 20 to 40 miles an hour, and every 3 to 7 days it snowed or we got some type of weather. You know, it was like just a real trying winter for just about everyone. You talk to the resort owners and everyone's like just kind of over this winter, but we're still out here doing it, catching crappie.
Till the very bloody end.
Yes, exactly. Like, we're not gonna give up.
Well, that's about all we got for you in this video. Special thanks to Brad for sharing a bunch of really good tips. And if you enjoyed this video and you learned something, make sure to hit that little red subscribe button down below, because we have a lot more awesome content coming in the future. And until then, we will see you in the next one.